Will the June meeting of the Nags Head Board of Commissioners please come to order? Let's begin our meeting this morning with a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a motion for adoption of the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
So ordered. Chad, you got, Chad here this morning? There.
Good morning, Mayor.
morning.
I'll start off a little bit, if you don't mind.
right, please
Board of
do.
Commissioners, good morning. It may take a few minutes for our staff to filter in.
Welcome back.
Keep, yeah, there you go.
Good morning. How are you? Damn. They look younger all the time.
Very good. Woo. Mayor, it's my honor and privilege to welcome the 2017 Ocean Rescue staff that are going to be protecting lives on the beach this summer. They are the ambassadors of the beach, and just because of them, others may live. They go out and they do their job every day, and it's been fairly busy on the Outer Banks, and although the weather doesn't really belie that, it's been a little chilly. It's been an active summer, and if there's any indications, it's going to be a busy summer for these folks, so we wish them all the best. And with that, I just want to recognize Chad Moats, Ocean Rescue Captain, and Bree Floyd for doing an excellent job in recruiting and making sure that we get the best possible staff. And they prove it every year, because last year they were the regional champions, and we're looking for that same thing again this year. So welcome, everyone. Welcome. Chad.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for welcoming us here again. We've had a great start to our season. The supervisors came in on May 9th, went through a few days of training. Everybody else started on May 14th. We did a first week of medical first responder training, and then another week on the beach doing USLA training. We started off the great Memorial Day weekend, really busy. Like Chief said, we've been running calls every single day since Memorial Day weekend, and these guys have done an outstanding job. And I'm very proud to introduce these guys this morning to y'all, and we'll get things started here. And Mr.
Chad,
Gray,
before you start your introductions, we'd like to thank all of you for coming and being with us here at Nags Head this summer. And we really appreciate your efforts. I've already had some excellent feedback. So let's give this group a hand before they get started.
And so I'll have you guys just come up to the microphone one at a time, introduce yourselves. Ms. Gray, get things started.
Good morning. I'm Sarah Gray. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. This is my 4th year with Nags Head. My first year as a supervisor. I also work back home as a nurse in Richmond, so happy to be out here, happy to be taking care of the beaches. So.
Thank you.
My name is Kelsey Lyon. I am first time lifeguarding at Nags Head. I was a lifeguard last year for Emerald Isle. the town of Emerald Isle on the beach. This is my second year as a beach lifeguard. Graduated from University of North Carolina at Wilmington 3 years ago with a degree in health and physical education, and I was just looking for a different change of scenery. That's why I came out here.
Hi, I'm Danielle Kimball. I'm a third-year guard here. I'm from Hampton, Virginia. I just graduated from the University of Virginia, but I'm happy to be back here. So.
Hi, I'm Penelope. It's my first year here at Nags Head. I'm from Montreal, so French part of Canada. Graduated from the University of Montreal last year. Presently doing my master's, and I really like what I'm doing here, so I might come up next year too. And yeah, everybody's like super cool, super nice, and like the experience, so hope I'm gonna meet you guys again.
Hi, I'm Maggie Wiseman. I'm from Richmond, Virginia as well. I'm going to VCU up there, studying exercise science, and this is my first year down here and first year lifeguarding.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Jacob Ramey. I'm from Newport News, Virginia. This is my third year with Nags Head, sixth year lifeguarding on the Outer Banks. I'm an EMT basic, and I'm also a ski patroller in Park City, Utah.
Good morning. My name is Matt Quinn. This is my fourth summer with Nags Head, and I just graduated from the University of Georgia with a degree in geology, and I grew up in Savannah, Georgia.
Good morning. My name is Jay Boudreau. It's my first year here at Nags Head. I have a little over 20 years experience in EMS and a couple different branches of the military. Really excited to be down here.
Hello, my name is Matt Crumley. This is my third year with Nags Head Ocean Rescue. I did 2013 and 2014 and then took 2 years off and came back this year. I'm glad to be back. I'm from Harrisonburg, Virginia. I graduated from Blue Ridge Community College in 2011 for criminal justice.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Kevin. I'm from Yorktown, Virginia. This is my fourth year with the town. About me, I am a Virginia Tech grad, Ironman athlete, entrepreneur, and I'm happy to be here.
Good morning. My name is Forrest Dunston. I'm from Elizabeth City, North Carolina. I attend East Carolina University, and this is my second year lifeguarding.
Good morning. My name is Caleb Nieper. I grew up in Kittle Hills, North Carolina, and this is my first year at Nags Head Ocean Rescue. Looking forward to a good summer.
Good morning. My name is Sarah Yildiz. This is my second year lifeguarding with Nags Head Ocean Rescue. I had to just come back. I'm an exercise science major at Virginia Commonwealth University, and I'm excited for the summer.
My name is Noah Parsons. I'm from Kittle Hills, North Carolina. It's my second year lifeguarding, and as well as lifeguarding in the winter, I'm a volunteer firefighter with the town of Nags Head.
Hello, I'm Gage Hanna. I'm from Fairmont, West Virginia. This is my second year lifeguarding, and I love coming down here for the summer.
Hi, I'm Ashley McNeil. I'm from Nova Scotia, and I just graduated from St. Francis Xavier University, and this is my first year with Nags Head.
Hi there, my name is Coleman Flynn. I'm a philosophy student at UNC Wilmington, and this is my first year with Nags Head Ocean Rescue.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm from Quebec City in Canada. It's my first year with Nags Head Ocean Rescue, and I'm happy to be here.
Hello, I am Ashley Knowles. I am first year here. I have a bachelor's in fire science and medical. I'm a firefighter EMT and happy to be here.
Some outstanding qualifications.
Good morning. My name is James. I'm from Montreal, Canada. This is my first year for Nags Head Ocean Rescue, and I'm currently studying health sciences down in Montreal.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm from Quebec. It's my first time here and I'm 18 years old.
Good morning. My name is Philippe Carbonneau. I'm from Montreal, Canada. This is my first year working here, and I study in phys ed at McGill University.
Good morning. My name is William Chartrand. I'm from Montreal, Canada. This is my first year for Nags Ocean Rescue. I'm presently studying in computer engineering in Montreal, so have a good summer.
Good morning. My name is Ed Hayden. I'm from Albany, Maryland. I graduated from Monmouth University in New Jersey. I played 4 years professional soccer, and I'm currently in my 3rd year as a professional skimboarder. This is my first year with Nags Head Ocean Rescue, but I'm more excited to be a professional lifesaver than either of the other activities that I've done professionally. Excellent.
Hello, my name is Mateo. I'm from Montreal, Canada. This is my fifth summer lifeguarding and my first summer here at Nags Head.
Hi, I'm Dwayne. I'm a volunteer firefighter with Collington. Graduated with a bachelor's degree and just finished my fire 1 and 2 here in Dare County. And this is my first year ocean rescue. Really looking forward to it.
Hi, I'm Caroline Jarvis. This is my first year with Nags Head Ocean Rescue. I'm from Manio and I attend Meredith College.
Good morning. I'm James DeGroff. I went to Hiram College and I'm from Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, and this is my 5th year working for the town.
Hello, I'm Tyler Birch from Jamesville, North Carolina. I just graduated nursing school, and this is my 3rd year lifeguarding.
Hello, I'm Jessica Wallace. I was born and raised in Kitty Hawk, and this is my 2nd year. I go to Meredith College, and I'm studying art education.
Hi, my name is Alice. I'm from Montreal, Canada. It's my 2nd year of guarding here, and I'm studying architecture back in Montreal.
Hello, my name is Amelie, and it's my first year lifeguarding. I'm from Montreal, Canada, and I'm still studying at the University of Montreal to become a speech pathologist.
Hi, good morning. My name is Castle, and I am also an exercise science major at Virginia Commonwealth University, and this is my first year down here in lifeguarding.
Good morning. I'm Sean Kenny. This is my 7th year working at Ocean Rescue, 4th with Nags Head. I'm an EMT basic. I'm the son of Captain Kenny. I studied oceanography at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, where I graduated in December. Thank you all.
Hello, my name is Evan McDowell. I started lifeguarding here way back in 2008. And I took some time off to go work as an engineer, which is my degree, and then decided that that wasn't my lifestyle, so I came back here. This is now my 5th year with Nags Head Ocean Rescue, and I'm very happy to be back.
Hey, good morning, y'all. I'm Ken Savage. As you can tell by the gray hair, I've been involved with life saving for a very long time. This is my 4th year with the town of Nags Head, and just to let you all know, haven't had the chance to work for many agencies. Captain Moats absolutely runs one of the best agencies I've ever worked for, so you guys should be really proud. I'm from Keel Level Hills, North Carolina, by the way.
Good morning. I'm Bryce from Mania, North Carolina, and this is my 4th summer with Nags Head Ocean Rescue.
Again, just like to thank the town for their support in this organization, and this is a brief introduction to a really fantastic group of young and old folks that we have working for our town, protecting our citizens and our visitors, and we're looking forward to having a great summer again here in Nags Head. Thank you all.
That looks like you've outdone yourself again on this fine group of young folks that'll be working with us this summer, and we look forward to a very successful summer and a very safe summer for all of our visitors. Thank you very much for all you do.
Thank you, guys.
Good having you this summer. Have a good summer.
They get younger every year.
Yeah, it's a good, I wondered about that.
Getting younger every year.
I wondered about that when I used to interview at the law schools and every year. I thought, these students keep getting younger every year. I want to come back here.
Thank you all.
Just great, so tiny young things, and you go out there, call people in or do whatever.
I'd be interested in
Okay, Ralph, you have 2 new employees to introduce this morning.
if people are just falling all over themselves.
Yes, I do, Mayor. The first employee I'd like to introduce today is Dustin Buchanan. Dustin was born and raised here on the Outer Banks, graduated from Manio High School. He then left, went to the Citadel, and graduated with a degree in political science. And when he came here, I said, well, that's good. Now you'll see how politics really works. He decided he was going to go into law enforcement, didn't really like that, wanted to come back home. So he moved back and lives now in Kildover Hills with his wife Amanda and his daughter Violet. And we're very glad to have him. Thank you. The next employee I'd like to introduce to you is Christopher Hoffman. Christopher comes from, and he likes to be called Chris, comes from Pennsylvania. While Chris was up in Pennsylvania, he worked on various big construction jobs. He worked as a mason, a bricklayer, and came here, I guess like everybody else, came here when he was a young boy. His family came, vacationed here. He liked it, so he decided he would come. He likes to fish, he likes to hunt, and he likes to work out. So we're very glad to have him too. Christopher Hoffman.
Welcome. Thank you for coming here.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Kelly.
Good morning, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm excited to introduce Kim Thompson this morning for recognition of her 15 years with the town of Nags Head. Kim started her employment here with the Finance Department. She worked in the Finance Department for 13 years. She did a variety of jobs from front desk, accounting, and payroll. And we were very fortunate about 2 years ago to lure Kim from finance to planning. We could not be more pleased and consider ourselves very lucky that she's now with planning. Kim is the administrative assistant for the entire department, which includes building inspection, zoning administration, code compliance, septic health, and long-range planning. So she handles a variety of inquiries and phone calls and situations every day. She's the first face that people see when they walk in. She's the first conversation that people have when they're dealing with planning. She's always wearing a smile, very courteous, polite, and I'm pretty confident she makes everyone's experience with the planning department much better. When Kim isn't at town hall keeping everyone in line,
She enjoys going to auctions, boating, fishing, being at the beach, spending time with her family, her husband Mark, and her 2 daughters, Logan and Tara, and just spending time with friends. We're very fortunate to have Kim in the planning department, very fortunate to have her for 15 years. Hope we have many, many more. And with that, I'd like to present Kim Thompson.
Thank you for all your service and all that you do for us. Thank you.
Great, Kim, thank you very much for all you
15 years flies. It does.
Ralph.
Yes, ma'am, we saved the best till last.
20 years. 20 years.
Yes, I am honored to present Robin today for her 20th year with the town. Robin, again, would come down here on vacation and stuff. In 1997, she came, she stayed. Robin loves the beach and enjoys spending time with her friends. There's not much I can say about Robin because all you have to do is walk into town hall and look at that building and see that a building that is 20 years old with the amount of traffic it gets and the way it looks. You know, Robin, I told Robin a long time ago, she is the caretaker of that building because she really is. Years back, Robin went out and then for a medical procedure. And she was out for a couple of weeks, maybe 3 or 4 weeks. Well, I get a call from Webb, Fuller, who's the former town manager. And I went there and he said, when is Robin coming back? I said, well, she'll be out for another week or 2. He says, I can always tell when Robin's out. And I said, well, how's that? He said, come here and I'll show you. And he walked up to the chair rail underneath and he rubbed his finger. He said, you see that dust? If Robin was here, that dust wouldn't be here. He said, Robin does everything in this building exactly like I would do it. When I heard that, if you know Webb, he didn't throw around compliments very much. So when he said that, I was like, well, I got to do everything to keep this lady here, as long as he's here. Robin's one of the few people I will also tell you, she came to me about 2 months ago and says, I need a new vacuum. I said, I thought we just bought a new vacuum. She said, that was 4 years ago. They don't last forever. I was like, yes, ma'am, whatever you want, you just go get and you let me know. And she's one of the very few people that I say that to. I always question why. But when she says she needs something, she gets it. So, Robin, thank you very much for your 20 years.
Great job. Great, thank you.
Great, well, thank you very much for all you really
Congratulations, 20 years.
It's been good to me.
That's good. Good to the town.
Thank you, Robin. Next on the agenda, we'll ask Bob Muller, who's chairman of the Fireman's Relief Fund Board, to come and give us a report on the fund board.
Kind of like Groundhog Day, listening to those lifeguards come through. They just keep coming and coming and coming. Good morning. This is a historic day. To my knowledge, the Nags Head Fireman's Relief Fund has never appeared before the Board of Commissioners in the more than 35 years that it has been, 45 years that it has been in existence. I take a few minutes today to tell you about the Nags Head Fireman's Relief Fund. Our trustees, or 2 of our trustees are with us today. I'd like to introduce them. Annette Ratzenberger, who is our treasurer, and Joe Fessler, who is the longest serving by far member of our board. They are both appointed by your board. Master Firefighter Chris Day and Firefighter EMT Scott Hooper are members elected by the fire department, and Chief Kevin Zork serves as an ex officio member of our board. We are not a unique group. Virtually every fire district in the state has a relief fund. In fact, the relief funds were initially established in 1907 by the North Carolina legislature to provide support for firefighters who might be injured or, heaven forbid, killed in the line of duty. We believe the Nags Head Board was formed in 1972 when the Board of Commissioners appointed Paul Royston and Arthur Marks to serve on that first board. Since that time, the Relief Fund has served members of the fire service, and as our memo states, our services are highly controlled by state statute. We can provide assistance to firefighters in their families in the event of injury or death. We can provide scholarships for firefighters. We can provide a retirement benefit for firefighters. We can also provide support to firefighters and past firefighters who have become indigent. And there's some other minor things that we can also do in support of the fire service. Like our range of services, our actual activities are tightly supervised. Every distribution we make must be approved by the North Carolina State Firefighters Association, and we submit an annual report to the NCSFA. A copy of our most recent report is attached to your packet today, I hope. The Nags Head Fireman's Relief Fund is funded in part by a tax on homeowners insurance. We get about $11,000 to $11,000 and $12,000 a year from that source. The Nags Head Volunteer Fire Department, when it was in existence, provided substantial funds in support of the Relief Fund. Their Community Awareness Day and their barbecue allowed the fund to build a substantial reserve, which we invest. The fund is managed by the trustees, and in fact, we have just reviewed and restated our investment policy and our investment practices. We provide scholarships for undergraduate, graduate career development courses. We provide a retirement benefit for firefighters who have served 20 years with the town and reached the age of 55. That benefit is 2 payments of $5,000. So when you hit 55, if you have 20 years, you get a $5,000 check one year and a $5,000 check the second year. We could not sustain financially a monthly or annual payment. We hope that provides some benefit to the firefighters. We believe our efforts have made a significant contribution to the quality of life of members of the department. We have distributed over $38,000 in scholarships, over $85,000 in retirement benefits. You met one of our scholarship recipients today, Sean Kenny, received undergraduate and undergraduate scholarship funding through the fund. We very much appreciate the town's support of our effort. The board regularly appoints trustees. You are no longer required to do that, although we encourage you to appoint trustees every 2 years so that you stay current and our membership stays current. In fact, you have a board appointment today to our board, and we appreciate your taking that. I also want to recognize the service we get from Town Clerk Carolyn Morris and Deputy Town Clerk Michelle Gray. They are our eyes and our ears. They handle our correspondence, help us with our transactions, and without them, we would be lost. They keep our records. The reason we know that the board was founded in 1972 was because we get back in the clerk's records, and there it is. We also need to thank Finance Officer Amy Miller and her predecessors for her help in preparing our annual report. She provides a second set of eyes and kind of an audit on our books, which we appreciate very much. Thank you for your time. That's a brief overview of what we do. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have about the Relief Fund.
Any questions for Bob?
No, but thank you. Good report, by the way.
We thank you very much, Bob, and thank Annette and Joe for the work that you're doing, and that fund is very, very healthy, and we appreciate those who have taken care of it. Thank you very much. At this time, we'll have our public comment session of our agenda. And we'd ask if you have something you'd like to bring to the board that's not in a public hearing later on, that you could bring it at this time. We'd ask that you hold your comments to no more than 5 minutes, and we'll ask Mr. Light if he would be our timekeeper, please.
Yes, sir.
Would anybody like to come speak to the board this morning? The auctioneer says, going once, going twice. We'll declare the public comment section closed at this time. Next item is the consent agenda. Do we have a motion on consent agenda?
Motion to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion on the consent agenda? Not all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, there being none. This time we'll have a public hearing to consider citizens' comments on the town manager's proposed operating budget for the next fiscal year. I'll ask Mr. Lighty if you would conduct that session for us.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, thank you. At this time, we will begin the public hearing to consider citizen comment on the town manager's proposed operating budgets for the July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018, and fiscal year July 1, 2018 through June 30, 2019, and proposed capital improvement program requests for the next fiscal year. We'll begin with the presentation of the town manager's budget and explanation presented by Town Manager Cliff Ogburn.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. I just wanted to briefly summarize the two workshops for the public's benefit. The board has had two workshops and has discussed the budget for the upcoming fiscal year as well as the plan year for the following year. The changes, although they're slight, I do think they are worth mentioning. We've made some changes in the general fund. We've reduced the engineering technician salary to the general fund, which has a corresponding increase in the water fund by $10,866, reduced life insurance expenditures by $7,721. We reduced department supplies and facilities maintenance and public works by $7,000. However, there's a corresponding increase in signs by the same amount, as we'll start an initiative this coming fiscal year to increase the font size on the street signs for public safety. We reduced overtime salaries by $6,000 for sanitation. We should see a decrease in overtime for sanitation with the addition of a new sanitation employee. We reduced Dowdy Park Phase 2 and 3 grant expenditures by $10,000 because of the revenue that revenue was realized in this current fiscal year versus next. We've eliminated part of a special assessment revenue, which is $1,129. So that's a decrease to the general fund of $23,458. Also, the board's discussed health insurance and how we can reduce claims by reduce the cost of insurance to the town by offering incentives. Right now we've got about $17,000 budgeted. However, we will see a reduction in that depending on whether or not the board decides whether or not we're going to offer any incentive for smoking cessation, which we'll start that program regardless in the upcoming fiscal year. I had mentioned to the board that I thought with this reduction in expenditures, we could use some of that funds to overlay and pave Satterfield Landing. However, I think we need to kick that into a subsequent budget year because it's a higher cost than I anticipated, so I think we need to continue to plan for that. The tax rate remains the same, 17.5 cents for the municipal service district. No tax increase is proposed townwide in the upcoming fiscal year. So with that, I'll leave it for the public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Ogburn. All right, at this time, any member of the public who wishes to comment on the proposed budgets may do so. If you would, please approach the podium, tell the board who you are and where you live, and then address your comments to the board. Anybody wish to comment?
Bob Oakes.
Mr. Oakes, please. You'll go first, and maybe last. There's going to be very few takers today.
Good morning, Mayor, Commissioners.
Good morning.
It always amazes me how little public comment we get on the budget, actually. And it's difficult decisions and discussions, I think, among the board. You've always got a lot of good competing interests, things that you're trying to do. Budget time of year always reminds me of Dave Masters a little bit, actually. I want you to hold him in your thoughts and prayers. His wife, Becky, did just pass away recently. But I think we benefited from Dave's comments, and it's good to have a gadfly, I will tell you, and I feel like I'm sometimes filling that position a little bit. The main concern I have with the budget is the implementation of the MSD at this point in time. Advice that we give homeowners down here, get the work done before you pay the bill. Don't pay the painter before he's finished the house. Not picking on painters, that goes for any subcontractor, actually. I'd rather see y'all do the work and then give us the bill. I don't think we know the true costs, and I don't think you will until after you're done. I think we need to be careful with what we're buying. I don't think we need a Cadillac if we've got a Chevy budget. And I am concerned about the cost and the continuing cost. That MSD falls hard on second homes. There are quite a few second homes in the historic district. And on permanent residents, there are not a whole lot of permanent residents, fortunately or unfortunately, on the ocean front. But you're starting to see that ownership in historic row be split in the third and fourth generations. And taxes and insurance are a big part of the costs that they have. And the higher those costs go, the more incentive I think there is for that property to change hands. And I don't think y'all want that. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate your consideration in the budget. You can have another meeting. It's okay. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Oakes. Would anybody else care to comment on the budget? Budgets. Last chance. If there's no further comment, at this time we will conclude the public hearing, and I don't believe the board plans to take any action at this time, does it?
We will take action on the budget at our mid-month meeting on June the 21st. We'll wrap everything up and take final action on the budget on June the 21st, if everybody's in agreement with that. Is there any other discussion this morning?
Does the board, I just will raise this question, do you intend to have public comment before you adopt it at the mid-month or not? Has that been discussed?
We would not normally have public comment at that time.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
But they do have, isn't there some point period here where the public could,
Between now and the 21st, they have input, right?
between now and the 21st, there could be input
Right.
to us or town manager, like, if there's any input to be considered by then.
Any other discussion on the budget this morning? If not, our next public hearing is considering the zoning ordinance text amendments submitted by Natalie E. Marcus, amend Town Code Section 48407B. Mr. Lighty, I'll ask you to conduct that public hearing for us also.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. At this time, we will begin the public hearing to consider a zoning ordinance text amendment to Section 48-407B3 of the Town Code that deals with permitted uses within the C2 General Commercial Zoning District. This would allow various metaphysical wellness services, and we'll begin the public hearing with the presentation of the staff's analysis provided by Kelly Wyatt.
Thank you. Good morning again, Mayor and Commissioners.
Good morning, Kelly.
As noted, this text amendment request is being made by Ms. Natalie Eve Marquis. She's requested to amend Town Code Section 48-407, subsection B3, to allow various metaphysical wellness services within the C2 zoning district. I will admit that I was not very familiar with some of these uses. So Ms. Marquis did go ahead and provide some information on what these uses specifically would be, and those are, they're listed in your staff report, but those are life coaching, hypnosis, which would include past life regression, medical physical wellness services, such as energy healing, including Reiki, integrated energy therapy, and theta healing, intuitive readings and coachings, which include psychic, tarot, oracle card reading, mediumship, medical intuitive reading, tea leaf readings, and astrology. So again, Ms. Marquis did provide staff with some information on the definitions of those terms. Neither the zoning code at the time that Ms. Marquis came to us, nor the recently adopted table of permitted and prohibited uses addressed any of these uses. So we did ask her to go ahead and submit the text amendment application, which is what is before you today. We did some research on these types of uses in terms of the legal aspect, and we did find back from 2013 a United States Court of Appeals case, Moore-King versus the County of Chesterfield, Virginia, pertaining to how communities would regulate fortune tellers. The case also dealt with regulating commercial and professional speech with regard to the First Amendment. And we included that in your package for your review and consideration. Okay, thanks. Planning staff reviewed numerous ordinances regulating this type of use and found that many localities do allow these uses. The majority of them allow them as conditional uses, and based upon the information that we received from the Court of Appeals case with the County of Chesterfield, Virginia, we found that not only do they allow them as a conditional use, but they do provide specific conditions which would allow for the chief of police to essentially run a background check on the applicant, very similar to what we do now for taxi cab drivers. And this would just allow us an opportunity to make sure that the services that they were offering were legitimate and that there had been no concerns or complaints expressed regarding the applicant's services in the past. So, as no reflection of Ms. Marquis and her business, generally speaking, some of the practices that she has offered can and have been deemed fraudulent or deceptive by nature, given that text amendments are not site-specific or applicant-specific, but convey a specific use to an entire district. Staff would request that if the board does consider adopting this text amendment, that they adopt it as a conditional use so that we can impose the required condition of the background check as opposed to a permitted use. So you have both of those ordinances in your packet, one as a permitted and one as a conditional with the appropriate conditions attached to it. At its April 18th, 2017 meeting, the Planning Board heard this request and voted unanimously to recommend adoption as presented via the conditional use process. Happy to answer any questions, and we do have Ms. Marquis in the audience if you have any questions of her.
All right, thank you, Kelly. Are there any questions for Ms. Wyatt?
Can I?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And I may rope in Chief and you
Okay.
as we go through this. The ordinance is written, tracks with 46, whatever, 86, 80-something, and that's fine. But it appears, in one case, it appears to be written as if it's Ms. Marquis or the owner of one of these would be a driver. So, you know, the parallel between the cab and this. And so I'm curious, does this ordinance cover, or what we would do in the case that the owner, the applicant for this is a business who is also the person doing it. But what if that person hires additional people? And I realize it was, you know, in this case, it was stated it wasn't going to happen for a while. Do we have to recraft this in a similar manner such that employees would be treated like drivers as opposed to the owner being treated like the cab company itself?
I can ask the attorney to chime in on that if he would
That's what
like.
I said,
but
I was going to rope everybody in.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I hadn't considered that angle on this. And I think I'd have to look at it more closely, but my brief review of it is that it is designed primarily to apply to an applicant for the business, for the operation of the business, so the cab franchise.
Right.
And I don't know that, without looking it over again, I'm not sure if there are provisions that deal with individual operators, like the operator of a cab. And that might, but I understand your point, because the whole thrust here is not just to regulate the operator of the business, but also to operate to regulate the business itself
Right.
and the way it's operated.
And it may not be critical at this time, but it's something we need to think about. So we don't just have an incomplete thing on the book, but I don't want to delay it. So,
It's my understanding from a conversation with Chief Brinkley that we're going to have to do a little bit more work in terms of getting the approval for the background checks, if that is the way you would like to go. So there might be potential to incorporate some revisions at that
well,
time.
that's probably something we need if we wanted to track, like the cab company / driver. We need to have the same thing as the business separated from the potential employees that are, and so that's one. Number two, and I did track up here in Bowleg's II. I see where we've kind of got the same sort of, 10-year period felony review. That's good. I'm concerned about the second half of paragraph Bowleg's II. Can you scroll that up?
It's the second sentence,
It's-
in addition.
It's page 7 of the packet, I think. Yeah, there we go. That whole second sentence, it begins "in addition." Do we have that sentence up there for any other conditional use application? Do we have that requirement for any other business or conditional use where they obviously, as a business, as a structure, as a building or whatever, there are certain things that have to be reviewed depending on whether they're a renter, an owner, and this and that and the rest of it, but I can't recollect seeing that sentence written for any other conditional use coming in here. And it strikes me as well, gee whiz, it doesn't look right.
Unless Andy feels differently, I think you're correct. The language might be superfluous. It's going to comply with those anyway.
You have to do that anyway, and if the owner, the applicant, is a renter, some of that is really a building owner or manager's problem, not the renter's problem. And I think that whole, and I'm gonna recommend if we adopt this, that paragraph be deleted.
That paragraph or that sentence?
Not paragraph, that sentence. It just doesn't, and the last point I wanted to make, or thing I wanted to ask about, is, and this really is in your bailiwick, since I think the yellow this is what you fixed up. Down in Bowlegs 4 and Bowlegs 5, can you scroll up enough that those two paragraphs are on the screen? There you go, cool. In Bowlegs 4, we say that the chief of police decision is final. But it really isn't, because Bowlegs 5 correctly says that the applicant has a right to appeal to the Board of Commissioners. So do we have a little conflict or something that needs to be tweaked in there?
Well, it's final unless appealed to the Board of Commissioners.
Well, okay, but I modeled this off the taxi cab thing too, which does not say final. This is a simple wording change here, but it's inconsistent, I think, with what our intent is.
I think that sentence is fine as it is, because it only applies when a timely hearing request is not received, in which case the decision of the chief is final. So in other words, if you don't request a hearing before the chief, you don't have the right to appeal to the board. So in that situation, the decision would be final.
Well, but
Are you talking
then-
about the second reference to it?
Yeah, there's a second reference there also. The very bottom sentence implies that
I see what you're
same thing, and so does And then the very last sentence on the next page has the same, becomes final, and that, the implication there is after, after the hearing, that the chief's decision would be final. And that's not the way we do it for the cab stuff.
Yeah, I haven't compared it to the cab, but you could do it that way. In other words, that even if there's an appeal, until the appeal is resolved, they're not allowed to operate. That would be permissible. That's basically what the effect of the
That's
sentence.
why I wanted to get you into this, because I really didn't know if the, final sounds final, but then it says you can appeal to the board. I don't know. That was it.
We can try to tweak the language and get it back up if that would.
Well, I think we're going to need to make an additional provision. And I think it'll just take an additional section to address the screening requirements for employees of a business the first point you raised.
Yeah, but I don't think that's a time-sensitive one. I think the applicant wants to get started. I kind of don't want to hold this up on my points. So we could always accommodate the employees later, but I'm concerned about at least the final, the one paragraph up there that I do think, or one sentence we should strip, and I'm concerned about the final versus the appeal thing, just so everybody's clear on what the rules are when it starts. The employee, I think, would come later.
All right.
And I realize I'm being a little site-specific in my commentary here, but that's the only way to do it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Ms. Wyatt?
Anything else for Kelly?
All right, if not, is there any presentation from Ms. Marquis? If you would, please go to the podium so that we can all hear you and the broadcast can pick up your comments.
Hi, thank you for having me this morning. My name is Natalie Eve Marquis. I am an energy healer, hypnotherapist, intuitive reader, but primarily I'm a life coach that uses those modalities in the work that I do. And I was very interested in opening up what I call a metaphysical wellness center at Central Square, which is next to a yoga studio, so it has a nice synergy for the work that I do. And I've spent 33 years as a marketing and graphic design consultant, very successful in the work that I've done in New England, primarily before moving here. But 4 years ago, I really had a calling to help people in a deeper, richer way, in my opinion. And so the work that I do is all designed to help people get in touch with their inner wisdom, that's the name of my business, and live happier, more fulfilling lives. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm perfectly comfortable with the conditional use. You know, I used to be very involved in the town that I used to live in, so I understand about wanting to protect your town. And I don't know what the laws are as far as hiring employees, but, you know, if it means going for a screening, I'm comfortable with that too. So.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Marquis. Are there any questions for Ms. Marquis? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your consideration.
Yes, ma'am. All right, would any member of the public care to comment on this proposed text amendment? Nothing? Anything from the planning board, Mr. Cornwell? All right, does the board wish to receive any further information about this before we conclude the public hearing?
I don't think so.
All right, at this time, we will conclude the public hearing on this proposed text amendment, and the board may begin its deliberations.
Any discussion?
I'm comfortable with deleting the last sentence in 2II.
Okay, that last
Where it starts.
last long sentence, starting with in addition.
Yes, I'm comfortable with that.
Right. Any other comments? Yes.
I agree. I'm comfortable.
Let me ask about, I think the more I read the section about the finals versus in 4 and 5, probably only the one at the very bottom of page 7. That one right there. Last line.
Very last line
The very last line. Up,
on 7.
up.
Shall be
Right there.
final,
Shall
pending,
render his decision, which should be final.
Just put a period after
pending,
decision.
pending appeal to the Board of Commissioners. Is that good?
Yeah, he doesn't even need to do that. He could renders a decision and Bow Legs 5 then says it can be appealed.
Yeah. You could just put a period after
This
decision.
is the only place that this is questionable in the ordinance, the more I look at it.
Yeah, I think that's correct. So if you put a period after decision
Yeah.
on that line and struck which shall be final, I think it would avoid that confusion.
I think that fixes it.
Okay. Everybody in agreement with that? Can we get that changed so we can see the final before we proceed further?
You want a formal motion first? Or do you want to change it?
Well, I wanted to change it during the discussion so we can get a
Okay,
motion as
either
amended.
way, don't care.
A motion as amended.
It's a PDF, so Andy has to change it.
PDF.
He's sending it to me.
Oh, she said, okay. Amy sending it to you.
The focus next, time specific. There we go.
So, number 2, double.
Number 2.
Double
Yeah.
I.
And then,
Scroll down a little bit. That last sentence has been deleted, or I've got to strike through it.
Okay.
Yeah. And then if you go down to the next page, so that's, the next page, that the sentence, you can see that decision which shall be final has been stricken through.
Right.
So those were the 2 changes.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, do we have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt this conditional use amendment to 48407 C33 with the 2 amendments made during the board meeting to delete one sentence and delete a phrase at the end of the second sentence as posted on the board.
Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Motion's been made and a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign, and it's so ordered. Before we start our public hearing on number 3, the Focus Nags had, the board will take a 10-minute break.
Thank you, this old lady appreciates that.
We'll skip that and come back to it at 11:30.
Okay, I was looking for the 2-hour.
So as the board is aware, we are beginning to embark on the second phase of the Focus project, which is our Unified Development Ordinance. The board is also aware that we've had to transition to a different consultant for this phase of the project. He is here this week, today, to talk to the board about the scope and schedule for that phase of the project, also to introduce himself. And he's also here to host a technical committee meeting on this coming Friday morning and conduct interviews with staff and other individuals to just learn a little bit about the project since he's coming into it with fresh eyes. His name is Mr. Dale Holland. He's with Holland Consulting Planners. They're based out of Wilmington, North Carolina. Has a breadth of experience in land use planning and code projects. They do a lot of work in southern North Carolina, but have certainly done work all over the state, but particular emphasis on the coast. They just did a code project, I believe, for Wilming or Wrightsville Beach, and as well for Oak Island. He also has several projects up here in the Northeast region. So without further comment, here is Mr. Dale Holland with Holland Consulting Planners.
Mr. Holland, good to have you with us this morning.
Thank you. I very much appreciate your time and the opportunity to talk with you this morning, and we greatly appreciate you folks allowing us the opportunity to work with you and help you through this project. I want to be very clear about one thing up front. This ordinance, when it's finished and adopted, is clearly your ordinance. It's not ours. We've never written a zoning or a UDO ordinance that we agreed with everything in the ordinance. But what is important is that we give you a document that is technically correct and legally defensible, and reflects what your desires and wishes are. So it's very important as we go through this to have clear and open dialogue with the citizens, with the technical committee, with the planning board, and with you folks from the Board of Commissioners. And I mentioned legally defensible. I would like to just add an aside to that because of the frequency of the changes that our legislature hands us each year on regulatory abilities, responsibilities, and sometimes confusing legislation, we have begun using a legal counsel as part of our project teams. And in this case, we are using Matt Nichols. And the interesting thing is Matt Nichols is a native of Nags Head. He grew up here and his parents still live here. So Matt is very much pleased to have the opportunity to help us with this project. One of the first things that we do, that we recommend to our clients that be done on land use plans and on zoning ordinances or UDOs, is to adopt or endorse a statement of citizen participation, to have a clear outline of how the citizens, the public, the planning board, Board of Commissioners, everyone can be engaged in this process. And we want this process to be as transparent as possible. And forgive me, but I'm not sure which button I pushed. Okay, thank you, Andy. You have been provided by the staff a copy of what we refer to as a citizen participation plan for the Unified Development Ordinance. And it's broken down into several categories or sections, the first being responsibility. And the responsibility in producing the draft of this ordinance lies with the ad hoc consensus technical committee, review committee that you have appointed. That will be our primary point of contact as we go through the drafting of the ordinance. We will have involvement of the town staff certainly in that process, and ultimately, once the technical review committee is finished with its participation in the drafting of the ordinance, it will move forward to the planning board for their review and endorsement, and ultimately to you folks for the conduct of the public hearing prior to adoption. We have one section, part of it, addressing meetings, and I detail those on the PowerPoint because I think it's important that we understand how many meetings are going to be involved in this process. And what we've proposed are 7 meetings with the technical committee to review the content of the UDO. Those 7 meetings are meetings that we will be attending with the committee. And incidentally, when I'm talking about meetings with the committee, I want to be clear that we will never give the committee anything at a meeting that they have not previously seen and expect them to intelligently discuss it We simply will not do that. We proposed a mid-project public review meeting so that we can bring the public up to speed on where we are and give the public an opportunity to comment if they wish on what has been accomplished thus far. We ultimately will have a joint technical review committee planning board meeting to present the final draft to them in that joint meeting. Following that, we have proposed an open house meeting, which would just be an informal meeting, most likely advertised and lasting for an hour and a half to 2 hours, where people may just come in and ask questions and get answers to those questions prior to moving forward to the Board of Commissioners and to a public hearing. And then ultimately, presentation to the commissioners of the draft UDO and the conduct of a public hearing. One of the key elements in being transparent is notification to the public of what's happening. And what we have proposed is that all meetings of the Technical Review Committee, the Planning Board, and the Board of Commissioners at which this ordinance is presented, sections of it presented and discussed, will be advertised as directed by the town in either or all of the Outer Banks Sentinel, the Outer Banks Voice, and or the Coastland Times. All meetings will be posted on the town's website. Meeting notices will be posted in the municipal building. We will have a sign-up sheet established at Town Hall, and anyone who signs up and gives us their email address will be notified by email of all meetings. We will use, as may be necessary, social media. We will send email notices of all civic groups that we are advised to send notices to by the town. We found civic groups can be very effective in helping keep people informed, and we can use as well at the town's discretion either newsletter or utility billings to notify people of meetings and the status of the project. In terms of dissemination of information, copies of the draft UDO will be available at all meetings so that someone in attendance who wants to look at the ordinance as it's being discussed will have that ability. Draft sections of the UDO as they are presented to the Technical Review Committee will be posted on the town's website. Just want to clarify one thing. We will not post sections of the UDO until it is in the hands of the Technical Review Committee. We don't want somebody calling the Technical Review Committee asking them questions about something they haven't even seen or discussed. Copies of the draft UDO will be available at Town Hall for public review. Copies of the UDO, hard copies, will also be available for purchase at the municipal building for the cost of copying. And there will be a public comment period set aside at each technical committee review meeting. Citizen participation plan includes as the last item a schedule, and I'm not going to attempt to read through that whole schedule, but there are a couple of things I think are important about the schedule. Number one, the schedule includes when we are to give draft sections to the staff, when the staff is to respond to us with their comments, and when the sections are supposed to go to the Technical Review Committee. The presentations of sections to the committee will come forward in 3 groups of topics. The first submittal to the committee, which is to occur on August the 30th, will include the administrative, basic regulatory procedures and processes, the quasi-judicial processes, All of that will be addressed in Articles 1 through 5 of the UDO. The second section, which would go to the committee on November the 6th of this year, would include the backbone of the ordinance, the table of permitted uses, and the supplemental regulations that are attached to those uses in the ordinance. And then the third section will go to the Technical Review Committee in March the 9th of 2018, and that will include the environmental regulatory elements of the ordinance and what we refer to as the performance standards, parking requirements, lighting requirements, landscape requirements, all of those individual types of requirements that apply throughout the town would be included in that third submittal to the committee. And that will lead us up to sometime at the discretion of this board, a public hearing in May or June of 2018. And we do realize the importance of maintaining that schedule and not ending up handing you something for public hearing in September of next year. So that is a overview of the citizen participation plan, and the action that, again, we would ask of you today is to either adopt it or endorse it as how we are going to pursue the participation process. And I'll be happy to answer any, or try to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Holland?
I thought it was a great presentation. I liked your timelines, and I like your commitment to the public process, very much so.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Holland?
Very good.
We want to formally adopt this as our project schedule, and
I'm very comfortable with what was presented to us, and I would endorse it.
okay. All right, so let's have a motion and endorse the schedule, then we'll record.
Let me ask one question, though. Are we going to put this on our website or make the same, or put it on a separate, the Focus website? I think we dilute our message.
Yes.
I have discussed that with the staff. We have two options, clearly. One is we at Holland Consulting Planners would establish a website as a separate website and maintain that website. The other is to put it on the town's website. And Holly or Andy might want to add further to this, but the town's preference was to have it posted on the town's website.
The town's website or the Focus website?
To clarify, we still have focusnagshead.com.
Right.
We had to get that domain, but we have it now. So we've redirected that to our website.
Okay.
So when you type that in, it goes to a page on our site, and we've set that up. And I think we want to maintain control of that for this phase. A lot of times, and I know the consultant will do a great job in maintaining information, but sometimes we just need to get something up right away. And having the ability to do that on our website is critical for us. And so we've asked the consultant, if he didn't mind, we would like to maintain it on our website. So you still click the Focus Nags Head link on the home page, you type it in, it just goes to a page, and this is it right here. And then you've got two sections, two subsections, one for the comp plan, one for the UDO.
That's good, because I don't want to see yet a third website out there, because then our
Right.
message is diluted all over the place. And
Yes.
So getting it focused, I'm sorry, say that.
But we have that domain now, so we own that now.
Good.
And then one of the other issues too is, at some point within the next year, we may have a new website. But we have that domain, so we'll still use that to redirect to wherever
Right.
this is going to end up.
All right, thank you very much.
Any further questions for Andy or Mr. Holland?
Great answer.
motion that we endorse this, that the board endorse this schedule.
I'd like to make a motion that we endorse the schedule as presented in the plan.
Second.
Motion made and second. Discussion on the motion.
Very clear, very concise. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, all those in favor of endorsing the schedule as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Yes, Mr. Holly.
Pardon me, I was remiss in not earlier saying that I greatly appreciate the help of your staff in helping me become oriented and engaged in this, since we are making a transition here, and I very much appreciate their help.
Good. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Holly, you have a sea level rise report for us this morning.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I am happy to report that we were able to conduct our next meeting on May the 2nd and present the draft report and have discussion with the committee about the draft sea level rise report and our work with the VCAPS study. And we did receive a fair amount of feedback, and staff and Sea Grant have been working to incorporate that feedback. And our goal would be to have that back to you in July. We would email that out to the committee prior to having it here before the board.
Okay. Any questions for Holly on sea level rise?
Yeah, could I get, okay, you're gonna send it to committee in July, before the board gets it in July? What's the timing on that being out?
The report, the draft, the revisions to the report?
Right.
I'm going to have to double check with Sea Grant and talk with them before I answer, but that could be possibly a mid-month. We hadn't discussed whether it would be a first meeting or a mid-month item.
Okay.
But as far as staff time, I think our staff time has largely been devoted to getting the Focus Nags Head to public hearing today. And we haven't had a whole lot of conversation back and forth yet with Sea Grant on wrapping that up.
Any further questions for
Yeah,
Holly?
we'll just, we have a little draft plan at Shoreline Management of getting the committee restarted this summer, and the VCAPS thing is part of that. Because we're gonna be looking past a single project to the future. And I don't wanna get hung up waiting on Sea Grant again.
Well, it's joint. It's both parties, and so, you know, we are committed to moving that forward as quickly as we can. We are wrapping up, hopefully, Focus, the comprehensive plan. We're kicking off the UDO, and we will certainly make sure that we can bring that to you in July.
I was hoping that we, you know, from what was here, that we'd have that thing out in July. I mean, I can work around it, but keep me posted, because I really want to get people to see that.
That would still be our goal.
It gets in their mind when they get back together. Okay, cool.
Holly, while you're there, how about updating us on your congressional testimony?
Yes, I had the opportunity, I was asked by John Dorman on Friday afternoon late to participate in a conference call with the Senate, the U.S. Senate Finance Banking Committee staff. I wasn't sure who it was with until yesterday, actually, but the call was on Monday, and they were looking at reauthorization of the National Flood Insurance Program, and they asked North Carolina and John Dorman to come and talk about the National Flood Insurance Program. And he recruited an emergency management director from Lenore County and myself to speak on behalf of local communities. So we were Nags Head, we were able to get a Nags Head perspective into what's important. What are local needs in the floodplain mapping program, and why is it important to the local community? How that program impacts our ability to regulate locally, and what our needs are in moving forward. So I had about 10 minutes to talk, and there were no questions or exchange on my part, but it was a great experience and an honor to be a part of that.
Question? Yes.
As part of that, there was no conversation about the mapping process, was there?
There was some general discussion about how the mapping process by John Dorman. He gave a presentation, and again, I was on a conference call, so I couldn't see the actual presentation. I was listening into that. But the focus and the message, I think, that I heard driven home was that there is a need to reauthorize the program. I think there was some perception at a federal level, but that because there had been such an advancement in the mapping efforts and the map modernization, that there was not a need to continue to invest because we were kind of done. We've modernized the maps, and they're effective. And so I think the state's point and what they were trying to really drive home is, yes, conditions continue to change, development continues to occur, and there are additional steps that we can take to continue to improve the program and be more accurate about representing risk to the community.
The reason I ask that is this board's taken a position to ask Congress to order the mapping to be updated and change the modeling to really reflect what's on the ground. And I was concerned about any information that thinks to give Congress the impression that the mapping process is working correctly.
Well, one of my comments as far as was, obviously that we maintain the accurate data that we have now. There was a need to have that in order to be able to educate citizens about risk and to prevent and to mitigate homes. We have to have accurate data. The second part of that was to improve the program, and one of the recommendations I pulled was from Spencer's recommendation to implement the findings of that mapping the zone study by the National Academy of Sciences that he spoke about when he came here, and I did mention that in what I said as far as updating the coastal models.
Okay, next question. How about updating the board on sea level rise work here being used as a case study?
We were contacted by Jennifer Dorton, who is out of UNC Wilmington. She's a Sea Grant Extension agent out of UNC Wilmington. We made connection with her at the Coast Conference in the beginning of April. The town was invited to talk about our process that we're doing with VCAPs at that conference. And so following that conference, she reached out and asked if the town would like to participate as a case study in the NOAA Climate Change Toolkit. And the link was included in the cover sheet for you guys to check out. But we would be the first coastal or the first case study in North Carolina on that NOAA Toolkit site.
Is the board in consensus on participating at that level?
Is that the one where we couldn't get into last time? The toolkit?
The website that I sent out.
That we couldn't get into?
Yeah, well, the link was incorrect. All you do is lop www off the link and it worked just fine.
Okay.
Yes.
What does participating in this entail?
Really, Jennifer Dorton and the Sea Grant staff have taken on the brunt. We had a phone call. I told them that it would be most helpful and if they could do the majority of the work there's some paperwork that has to be filled out and submitted to NOAA for review, and they provided me a draft. I received that last week, and we are able to comment on the information that's contained in there, but essentially it will just be more of an editing position for the information that's in there, and they're willing to carry the brunt of the work on that.
I just don't want to get delayed in any way on what we just approved by taking on something else, because this other sea level rise study seems to be taking forever to get done. And I just hate to add more work before we ever finish previous projects.
And we've made it clear, Holly's made it clear, communicated to Sea Grant that, yes, we would like to participate, but we can't prioritize because of the other workload.
Right.
Well, Sea Grant's due for major funding cuts, so I'm not sure how far they're going to get along. They're due to be, basically, their funding reduced to zero.
I hate to be the dark cloud over this thing, but a part of our case study needs to point out, I mean, I'm for the process, I still like the process, but unless the agency that's using it, or whatever, the municipality that's using it, understands the limitations of that. We clearly overwhelmed the process, not with nonsense, but with actual good data. And if you go back through their case history, they've all been much, much smaller little, things they've done. I think that needs to be a clear point made in there. Otherwise, there's an expectation that this was smooth. It may be good, but it certainly wasn't smooth, and I think that needs to be part of it. There's a clear warning.
Yes, sir. That's good.
Mayor, I don't disagree, but I'd like to see something in writing about what their expectation of us is. I'd like to see what their expectation of the town and staff would be.
Okay, we can provide that.
No offense, I just don't want to bite off something verbally.
And we appreciate that.
Right. I think
We want to produce and not.
if it's something we can do would be very helpful for the town of Nags Head and the work that we're doing and showing a leadership position in the entire state as far as sea level rise is concerned. I think it'd be great for us to do it. But there again, if we can get a written commitment that we're not going to overload staff on, I think that's crucial to the process.
Okay. And I'll tell you one of the reasons my concern is, I'd like to see us move forward on flood maps that are really an issue for the town before we get into something else. And I think we have a major issue with Mr. Dorman and his maps.
Well,
That's going to create a lot of heartache for the property owners of our town as presented.
our plan at your July meeting is to bring back, you've had, like you've pointed out, discussion on the flood maps and to present to the board some, if you so chose to take, we still haven't heard of when the appeal process will begin, but we need to have that discussion with the board about the flood maps and what direction you want to take, either to advocate or to appeal. And we'll have that in July.
Okay. We have consensus, go ahead with this.
I'd like to see something in writing before we agree to that, as to a scope.
And I think we can have that at your June mid-month.
Yes.
This month, mid-month.
Okay, let's stick that on the mid-month agenda then and see if we
Yes.
can get.
One more question, if we could. Are we, and I use the collective we, including us, going to get a chance to see this case study before it's published?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, that can be a condition of the.
I mean, I believe we, and I'm specifically looking at this table, because I know staff will see it, but we should see this thing as a.
Our participation will be caveated by that requirement.
It offers us an opportunity to sell some of the things we are doing, and to put us at the forefront, et cetera, but we need to make sure that.
I think it's important. Doing it right is important.
Right.
It's also very important that we do this to get the recognition for our town that it deserves.
Yep.
That's all the questions I had for Holly. Anybody else?
No, thank you.
Thank you very much, Holly. Appreciate all the work that you're doing. I know you've been loaded up. Mark, you have a report for us this morning?
Mayor, Commissioners, good morning.
Good morning.
That's a pretty aggressive timeline that he threw up there, knowing my participation in it. I'm reporting on the actions taken by the Planning Board at the May 16th meeting. We really only had 2 items, but first I'd like to mention that we did welcome Dave Elder as our newest member of the Planning Board. Our first item, we recommended approval of a text amendment submitted by the Mighty Wind Methodist Church for a new use of community garden as a permissible principal or accessory use. Now, we discussed and acknowledged that community gardens have numerous positive impacts for the community. However, we also felt that there was potential for unintended consequences with something like this, such as traffic, noise, stormwater runoff, refuse issues, odors, things like that. So as a result, we made the recommendation, but we recommended that it be permitted as a conditional use. Our second item was a continuation from what I briefed you on that we started in April, where we asked the staff to review the town's definitions of water-dependent docking facilities in the commercial overlay, outdoor overlay district. Items such as piers, docks, slips, and marinas. Now, we created some additional, or the staff created, and we approved almost entirely some new definitions. But of note is the creation of a definition for commercial pier, which would allow for a transient mooring only, limited docking spaces, and no overnight use. And this would allow commercial uses to have an accessory pier. With what the planning board approved and the approval of the other definitions as well, staff will draft the amendment and present it to us at this month's meeting.
Good.
Any questions?
Any questions for Mark? Continue to have a lot of good work from the planning board. We appreciate your efforts. Are there any items we need to discuss under old business items? I didn't have anything to bring up. If not, we can go to committee reports. Anyone have committee reports this morning? Mayor Pro Tem Walters, do you have a report?
I'd just like to state that the Tourism Board, because of HB 531, still has the short-term restricted funds frozen, which are projects that, towns and communities use for boardwalks, sidewalks, parks, fireworks, those kind of things. So we have those funds remain frozen until we know what the legislature is going to do. It's just an unknown. Hopefully they'll go home soon and we'll know what's going on. And then just that the Jeanette's Pier director position is still as proposed in the budget, in the committee report that was adopted as part of the budget. So there's no change on that.
It's in the House budget also?
Yes.
Not good news at
I don't
all.
have anything good to report, put it that way.
Commissioner Ratzenberger, do you have any committee reports?
No, we'll be having a brief meeting with ARPO to see if there's any additional fundings or prioritization or things we can do with our bike and ped data, taking the priority list from the focus and see if there's any possibility of us doing any good. I don't know that it will be, but we're going to make a shot tomorrow.
Okay. Commissioner Cahoon, do you have any?
Nothing in committee. I'll ask a question under members' agenda.
Okay. I was unable to attend a nursing home meeting this month. I was unavoidably up in Chesapeake that day. But you have a committee report?
Yes, sir. Mayor Pro Tem and I attended that. They're still on target, I believe, for the June 23rd. Might be later, but it's around that time. Completion, substantial completion of work. They've come a long way. We took a tour. It looks good. They are really trying to. They've got a plan of really digging into the community, the service clubs, Rotary clubs, going before we suggested that they give a report to each of the, at least initially, to each of those governing bodies in Dare County. They've reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and got a good ribbon cutting and open house plan. And I'm really impressed by how they are reaching out and trying to bring people into the facility. They've recognized that we have an issue. They have an issue with the generator that needs to be resolved. They're working through that. That really, I think, one of the last
Seems to be on the hang-up right now.
issues, but they've recognized that, and they do have a plan. I think they're gonna purchase a new generator to keep that facility operating during power outages. I don't know if there's more to report.
Well, it was a very positive meeting, the last two have been, but the facility looks wonderful. I mean, it's night and day. They have done an incredible job. They've invested way more than they thought they would, but the change is remarkable. And I think they seem to be staffed well. They didn't lose any people, last summer. They don't use agency. They use year-round staffing and permanent employees, and many have benefits. So I think that will definitely help with the quality of care, of patients. So anyway, I was very pleased. I can't wait to see that when it's all completed.
Encourage you to go in and go in the front hallway, go straight back and see their rehab gym. It's an outstanding feature, and I've had some anecdotal comments of all being extremely positive on the care and the looks of the facility.
I did as well out this weekend. I was out shopping, and somebody was telling me their mother was there, and they said, what a difference from before to now.
All right. Anything else on committee reports? We are down to consideration of appointments to the Personnel Grievance Panel.
Mayor, I want to remind you, when we get to the third item, I need to ask for a recusal.
Okay. We have 2 vacant alternate spots. Do we have recommendations to fill those 2 spots?
You only have one person that's asked to be on the Personnel Grievance Committee, so
Jean Flanagan.
I would suggest that we accept with great pleasure Ms. Flanagan to serve on that board.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion?
I will make that a motion.
Motion. A second?
Second.
Any discussion? Not all in favor of naming Jean Flanagan to the Personnel Grievance Panel, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign, there being none. So we still have 1 vacancy there that we've got to recruit for. And next item is consideration of appointment to the Board of Adjustments as an alternate. We've got 3 interested applicants there. Do we have a recommendation?
Hang on, because I can't get back to my stuff. There we go, never mind.
Yeah.
Are you going to simply place all of them in as usual?
Well,
or you
let's place the 3 candidates in nomination now. That would be Tina Adderholt, Ann Suppler Farmer, who's got a family tie there,
Yeah.
and Don Milbrath. Those 3 are placed in nomination. Start with you, Mr. Commissioner Demers. Who would you vote for?
Mr. Milbrath.
Mayor Pro Tem Walters.
I'll agree, Mr. Milburn.
Milbrath.
I'll agree with that.
And I'll also vote for Don Milbrath, so Don Milbrath would be named to the Board of Adjustments.
Here, before we move on, could we get one correction to that chart? Under Angelina Lowe, it says that she was appointed on 3/1/17, and it says her seat expires on 2/1/17. So could we get that corrected to have it,
Yes, ma'am.
to when her
Right.
term expires? Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a motion to recuse Commissioner Ratzenberger from
So
the next
moved.
item? Have a second, moved and seconded. All in favor of Mr. Ratzenberger's recusal, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign, there being none. Mr. Ratzenberger is recused from this item. This is consideration of appointment to the Fireman's Relief Board. And Annette Ratzenberger would like to be reappointed.
When does Bob Muller's seat expire? It's not on my chart. So,
All I have is served at the pleasure of the state, is last appointed in 2009, so I do not know.
okay,
I don't believe there are expirations.
okay,
Mhm.
all right.
They're lifetime appointments.
I'd make a
Supreme
motion to
Court.
reappoint Annette Ratzenberger.
Second to that motion?
Second?
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And it's so ordered. Mr. Ratzenberger, you can rejoin the board. This whole thing for the- okay.
If I can, to answer your question, the state appointment is
Whatever the pleasure of the
at
Department
their
of
pleasure,
Insurance.
and you know what that means.
The
okay?
Commissioner of Insurance,
And likewise, the
absolutely.
state, as Bob pointed out today, the state law changes to where the local appointees are indefinite, but our board feels, our Fireman's Relief Board feels
Stay in touch.
that they should be reappointed, just so that nobody gets sat in a position that, you know, gets too comfortable, so.
Mr. Light, do you have a request for a closed session?
Yes, sir, I do.
We have a motion to enter into closed session, discuss the Richardson litigation.
Mayor, I'd make a motion that we enter closed session to discuss the Town versus Richardson litigation in accordance with North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11, subparagraph A, subparagraph 3.
Second to the motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor, any discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. We shall return momentarily. Nags Head Board of Commissioners back in open session. Whitey, would you report out on the closed session, please?
Yes, sir, the board did discuss the pending litigation with the Richardsons, with the town attorney, did give instructions to the town attorney, but no other actions were taken.
Okay, thank you. Next item is update on the 4th of July fireworks display. Mr. Ogden, are you going to update us on that?
Hard to believe that it's this time of the year. As is historically done, we update the board on the fireworks spectacular. Chief Sorek's heading that up, so I've asked him to give you the information on that.
Great, thanks, Cliff. It's always a privilege to be able to bring good news to the board, and it's about our celebration coming up on July 4th. The town of Nags Head loves a party, and this is going to be a big one. I think there's a lot of people that are looking forward to our Independence Day fireworks spectacular. This year it's going to be on Tuesday, July 4th, 9:25 on the Nags Head Fishing Pier at milepost 11.5 on the beach road. So these flyers and brochures and posters have been distributed through town. They're online, and so we're expecting a big attendance for that event. We also want to take an opportunity to thank the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau for their support of the event, and especially Andy and Lovey McCann at Nags Head Fishing Pier. They've done an excellent job in sponsoring and helping support this event over the years, and despite a significant impact in their business. They really have to retool for us to get in and out of there on July 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. We know that July 4th is often filled with parades, barbecues, all these wonderful events, fireworks, celebrations. Even though the holiday was officially created in 1941, the tradition of celebrating goes all the way back to the American Revolution. And since that time, Americans have acknowledged the July 4th event as with pyrotechnics. And the first pyrotechnics display happened in Philadelphia on July 4th, 1777. So it's a long tradition in history of this. With that said, a little bit of the public safety piece. It's illegal to use fireworks in Nags Head. We feel the safest way to enjoy the fireworks is to view one of our commercial displays in the area, and we encourage everybody to come out and do that. The trained professionals out there help us to guarantee the safety of all the attendees and participants. Each July 4th, many people, most often kids and teens, are injured by the use of illegal consumer fireworks, and so we want to make sure that we encourage people to come to the public displays as opposed to use those fireworks themselves. We want to leave the fireworks to the professionals. Zambelli International will be the group coming out to provide the fireworks for us again this year. We've worked with them for several years now, and we feel that they have a beautiful and wonderful display that they're going to put together for us, probably 3,000 shells. And the show will last about 20 minutes. All the public safety forces recommend that everybody be in place at least an hour before the show. If there is any inclement weather that might postpone the fireworks display, that will take place on Wednesday, July 5th. So we do have a rain day. The Nags Head Police are encouraging those who are attending to park east of Highway 158 in any one of the northern town beach accesses, and to be there early again. Use extreme caution when crossing the roadways. Very important to keep control of children. And again, no use of fireworks or sky lanterns on the beach before, during, or after, or any time, considering the display. At the conclusion of the fireworks, Nags Head PD will help direct people off of the beach road onto the bypass and exit the area. I'd like to also encourage Nags Head attendees or any attendees to visit Jockey's Ridge State Park. It's another ideal place to view the fireworks. They are making accommodations to be open late on July 4th to accommodate all the visitors. You can call the park at 252-441-7132 if you need any more information from them. Just want to take this opportunity to tell you this is an all-hands event. So every department has something to do with the fireworks. Public Works, police, fire, planning, and it's just a very, very comprehensive type of event that we absolutely couldn't do without everybody pitching in. It's a real public-private partnership. So many thanks to all those who are too numerous to name. If you need more information about the fireworks display, the community can see our webpage at nags.nc.gov, or they can call us at 252-441-5508. And be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Or
any questions for Chief Zort?
One thing I just wanted to note, you may be aware that the town of Kittle Hills will be having their July 4th fireworks on July 7th, which is just going to, and that's partly due to a shortage of fireworks vendors, and so that's just going to put an increased load
on ours, right?
On ours, something to be aware of. And in regards to that, I asked the chief to speak to the Zambelli just to kind of see if there's any. We may want to, if that's going to be a growing trend, we may want to look at a longer-term commitment on a contract with the vendor so that we can secure July 4th. Beyond every year, we can go further out, maybe 4 or 5 years. I've spoken with the town managers of Manio and Kittle Hills to see if maybe we could bid something collectively, put something out, request for bids collectively, that you get one vendor, better price, and make sure that we're not competing they have before going forward. But of course, that would have to be a contract agreement that was, the vendor would have to be willing to make some concessions, because obviously you wouldn't want to commit funds that far out. So anyway, I think that's something, Chief, you may have more on that, but I think that's something we're going to have to consider as a town, that we're going to have to invest probably longer term.
Yeah, the only thing I can reflect is that the vendor, I know Zambelli is willing to, they will be willing to enter into a 5-year contract with the town for that.
And I think it still would behoove us at some point to still try to do joint ventures for really big shows in the Sound. I think as life moves on, we still should explore partnerships. And you could, by pooling your money, have a whole lot bigger show. And if you put it out in the Sound, it would decrease the need for as much manpower in small spaces.
Manio's having theirs on the barge again this year, and it really, it increases the cost. I mean,
It does.
It significantly.
But if everybody came together, you could, the barge cost is going to be a fixed cost, but you could increase the size of your show, but it would also decrease clustering of people trying to watch in small spaces. So, just a thought.
Any other questions for Chief Thor? Thank you very much. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. Me too.
Let's go back to item G3 now. Focus Nags Head, public hearing on comments on Focus Nags Head draft comprehensive plan. Holly, you going to present that?
Good morning, Mayor and Board. I'm going to do part of the presentation. Andy's going to close out the presentation, and then we can move into the, I guess, public hearing portion. Sorry. Okay. Before we jump into the presentation, I just want to pause and say a huge thank you. I first want to acknowledge our advisory committee members that are here, if they can raise their hand or stand up, either one. But thank them for all their hard work and dedication, the amount of time, personal time that they've invested, not only sitting through meetings, but reviewing the material that's contained in the draft plan, and definitely want to acknowledge them. Want to thank you as a board for supporting us and being patient through this process as we've moved this forward, and the planning board. And there are some other partner agencies, the Nature Conservancy, Jockey's Ridge, Outer Banks Tourism, Visitor Center, Sea Grant, Coastal Studies Institute, as well as several offices with their county that have supplied information or reviewed material to help get us to this point. And so it's really an effort on the part of many, and I want to acknowledge the time and effort and to thank you guys again for your support during this process. Since we brought forward the draft plan in January to the joint meeting, we have had 4 additional meetings, advisory committee meetings, February the 13th, the 23rd, and March 9th and May 15th. Sandwiched in between the March 9th and May 15th meeting, we had a community meeting. We did receive some feedback, and that warranted another advisory committee meeting to go back and discuss issues that were brought up. Those things have been addressed by the advisory committee and are incorporated into the draft planning document that you received. This item went to planning board on May the 16th. And the planning board will take formal action on it at their next meeting, which is in June the 20th. Throughout the planning process, there were some common themes that really came through. They're located on page 1-13 of the planning document. I'm not going to go into great detail about those, but did just want to highlight those things because they are probably the most important key items that came out of the planning process, and will hopefully be carried forward as we work to update update our codes. These are items that we are going to be focusing on implementing through the revisions to the codes and formation of the Unified Development Ordinance. So looking at architectural integrity, so that would be flexibility in our architectural integrity, the scale of development along Beach Road versus bypass, protecting the conversion of commercial properties along Highway 12 and to residential, shopping centers and large format development. The recognition of character areas in this plan is a first for the town. There's been a lot of reference to geographic areas, but we've incorporated that into this document. There's a focus on appropriate size development that is more resilient for the oceanfront. Looking at being flexible in how we apply our zoning for preservation of existing businesses, looking at how to diversify housing and accommodations, connectivity, that would be for our key destinations to residential areas. It was really important that we have a healthy small local business economy here in the town. Arts and culture is very important, that's a given, and that we are able to adapt, that we're able to be resilient and have a high level of environmental natural resources in the area. So those are kind of the 12 key themes that we're going to be looking at carrying forward in the next part of the project. Next, I'm going to talk briefly about our next steps. The purpose of today's meeting is to hold a public hearing. We're looking at adoption at our July Board of Commissioners meeting. What we will do next is step into getting this plan certified by CAMA. We're required to have a land use plan. This will take that place. And so there's a CAMA process that we have to go through that has been updated since our last plan. And what you see on the screen is kind of a summary of the steps that we're going to have to take. At a minimum, there are some time-specific parts that are the responsibility of CAMA and the state agency, and those at a minimum will take 5 months. There are 2 periods of time in which they will present us with a list of concerns or issues, and staff will have the opportunity to go back and address those concerns or issues, and that's an undefined amount of time. But the first step we have to do is complete our CAMA matrix, which has been started. We will submit that matrix for a review of completeness. Once we come to some agreement that that review of completeness is finished and we've addressed all the issues in the CAMA matrix, then we can enter into an official period of review, which is a 75-day process where both the federal and state agencies comment on that. Once we come through that 75-day period, we're again presented with a list of items to address or review. We have to come to some agreement with the state on completing those items, and then we will be able to advertise for adoption of local public hearing, which is you have to give a 30-day notice in order to do that. Once we locally adopt, then we can move forward into the adoption and certification by the CRC. So that's the generalized process that we would undertake. And again, at a minimum, their part is 5 months, our part, a couple more months involved in that as far as back and forth with the state to address the concerns that they have outlined. The next part, Andy will be presenting. This is on our implementation and action matrix.
Thank you, Holly. Just regarding the CAMA process, we're obviously looking at adopting this plan locally here within the next month. There's been a lot of work put into this plan. We've known all along that we were working towards replacing our CAMA land use plan, and that's what this plan is intended to do. Right now, the plan has been formatted to meet the town's requirements and the town's needs, and we can certainly adopt this plan and then move forward into the CAMA adoption process separately. And, we'll still be eligible through CAMA for land use planning grants and public access grants, because we still have a CAMA adopted plan while we're working through the CAMA adoption process. But why it's really important to do this local adoption now is there's a lot of work that's been put into the policies and actions in this plan, and that is really the foundation of what we need to go forward into the Unified Development Ordinance. We need that adopted so the technical committee can take that information and use it to develop our path forward with the ordinance. And so we've always seen this as sort of a two-step process, the CAMA sort of being something that we're going to follow through with, but it's not really paramount to what our goals are right now. As Holly described, we will have to work with them, but that's something that we'll kind of be doing quietly on the side. And then at some point, we'll probably come back to the board and say, we're going to have to re-adopt the CAMA plan after the state certifies it. And that's really somewhat of a formality. As the board knows, the CAMA planning process, they require us to incorporate a lot of information into the plan. We think we've done a lot of that. I'm certain there'll be additional things they'll want to see. We certainly went through this with the 2010 plan, and we've taken a lot of the information from the 2010 plan and carried it forward, hoping that that would suffice for a lot of the things they need. They have simplified their requirements, so we're hoping that that sets the path a little quicker than what it was previously. What we want to talk about next is how we're going to use this plan. Obviously, the policies in the plan really set forth the goals. We have the vision and the goals. We have the themes. And then we have these policies, and that's going to be what we're going to look at with the UDO committee, the technical committee, to set up our ordinances. But then beyond that, we have specific actions in the plan. Some of those aren't really directly related to ordinances, but they may be budgetary things, capital projects, initiatives we want to pursue. And so with the plan, what you have in Chapter 4 is a table that includes all the policies and actions. And before that, there's text that describes, how that will be used. And so what you don't see is that table that's been completely filled out with the priority levels and the financial requirements for each of those action items. And what we plan to do is take the policies and actions and create sort of a working matrix. Because that really can't exist inside this plan. We would be updating this plan constantly. If we plan to use this matrix and use it as a working document, we really need to take that and put it out into a spreadsheet and create a workable document that we can review with the board on a regular basis. So that will be the next step. We're still working through, Holly and I and Cliff, on how we're going to set that up. And what we envision is something that we can use with the board on a regular basis to review what the priorities will be. Much similar to what you've been doing at your retreats. You have been using a matrix to kind of establish what your priorities are, and it gets down to very specific things like projects, but we want to have something that can sort of augment that, and that's what this matrix will be. But at some point, we're going to have to discuss sort of the priority levels for a lot of these action items. But right now, the policies, a lot of the policies that relate to like architecture or local business or things that are going to relate to the ordinances we're going to adopt, we're going to carry that forward now. We don't really need that to be prioritized to carry it to the ordinance level. So that's a little background on how that might work. But what I think we'll end up doing is probably adding a brief paragraph in this introductory section in Chapter 4 to describe what I just talked about, having this action matrix being more of a working matrix that exists outside the document, and the document simply containing the actions and policies in the body of the document. So that's really it for that. Once again, along with Holly, we would really like to thank the advisory committee and all the citizens who participated in this, the patience that they've had with working with us on this, the board and the planning board, and all the patience that you've had. And I think it's a great document. It sets a great tone for the town, and hopefully we can use it for a lot of different things and really make it a working document. So thank you.
Thank you, Andy.
That's all we have for you for presentation today. We'll be happy to answer any questions if there are any about the plan.
First of all, I want to compliment the advisory committee and planning staff, and I think you've got a fantastic document as I was going through it the last couple of days. And it takes a couple of days to get through it, so I know how much work it took to get it done. Commissioner Ratzenberger, you had a question?
No, let's have public comment first, and then I'm sure we'll have some discussion afterwards. I'd like to say a few things after.
Okay. Do we have any public, anybody here that would like to make comments on the plan?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Appreciate this opportunity. If you don't know me, my name's Ben Cahoon, and I was a member of the advisory committee. But first and foremost, I'd like to say thanks to you whenever I have the chance for giving me the opportunity to undertake an important piece of work like Focus with a really great and really thoughtful group of people, the committee and the staff. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of hours, but for me, there's nothing that's really more engaging, rewarding, and fun than to do something like Focus. There's also nothing better, I believe, for a community than a thoughtful plan created by a cross-section of its citizens. It's really remarkable to me, and has been remarkable the entire time, the extent to which no agendas were brought to this process. Everyone who participated and provided input, the committee, the citizens, the staff, and the commissioners, brought only a love for the town, respect for the process and one another, appreciation for our residents, our businesses, and our history, and it's really been a really neat thing to see. As a result, I believe it's sensitive to our history, our culture, our natural and built environment, to the needs of our residents, and to our business owners and operators. But after that process comes the product, the document that we have before us today. And the benefit of a document like this is the way it informs those who could not participate in the process and those who come after us. Of course, it has to be used, as Andy said, it has to be a working document, used and promoted, and not put on the shelf. And as we use it and internalize it, it'll keep us balanced between competing interests and should temper our rulemaking and interpretation and ultimately help us to realize the vision. When future changes are necessary, as they inevitably will be, it provides more light where there is often too much smoke and heat. And finally, it's a solid foundation for the inevitable next iteration. As I hope you can tell, I am excited. I've been excited about this process and this important step. I'm also a little daunted about the next step, as was expressed earlier by the chair of the planning committee, of working with the technical committee and the consultant to work to convert this vision into a code. But again, because that committee also includes a cross-section of our citizens, I trust that it will also work just as well as the visioning step did. Which brings me back to being hopeful and excited about it. And so, I appreciate your support for efforts like this, your support of this process, your thoughtful input at every step along the way. That many of you made significant contributions to the document, which the committee appreciates, and thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Ben. Would anybody else like to make public comments? Yes, Jerry.
Mr. Mayor, Commissioners.
Jerry.
Good to see you all on this beautiful day on the Outer Banks. I was looking over this plan a little bit, and I think they're doing a great job. It's going to be good for the town, and it's really important. There's just one thing in there that bothered me, and it's probably minor, but South Nags Head, I see where the area for South Nags Head is being moved. I don't know, I've been down in South Nags Head 47 years now, and it's always started Gulfstream. And I don't see how we can historically change something that's been there for that many years. It's minor, but I just think that South Nags Head starts at Gulfstream. That's where it has always been, and that's where it should always be. That's it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any questions for Gary?
Could you clarify that? I missed something there.
On the map that you have showing the different zones, different areas, the boundary for South Nags Head, it's moved from Gulfstream to Governor Street. And I don't know if that was done because the hotel is there or what the reasons were, but I just don't see how you can do it. As I said, it's minor.
Help you to look at it, okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have comments from Bob Muller, who wasn't able to be here, but he asked that your board would allow for me to read these.
Yeah, would you read those, please?
Yes, sir. He notes, he has 16 points that he's noted. First, section 2.2.2, Gallery Road, page 25, and Whalebone Core activity, and the sound side activity of section 2.6.2.2. And his comments are, these town sections have language that would allow off-site wastewater to be used to encourage desired development patterns in the district. I strongly disagree with allowing any off-site wastewater in the town and encourage the board to delete that language. I do not object to the term shared wastewater, which implies a co-location of these facilities. Next, the historic district character area. I would strongly encourage the town to adopt the policy of a voluntary historic designation program similar to KDH. It affords property owners a chance to participate in historic preservation and gain a small reduction in the overall operating cost of historic structures. Next, EC-2A, promote cultural, educational, and recreational events that would reflect community goals and values with an emphasis on extension of shoulder seasons. His comment is, in economic development, it should be made clear that policy EC-2A does not anticipate or call for a town tourism development effort separate from or in addition to the Outer Banks Visitors Bureau efforts. The first sentence in the section of housing reads, the cost of land and the strong market for vacation rentals.
Cliff,
Sorry.
either slow up or send us this thing after.
First sentence in the section of housing reads, the cost of land and the strong market for vacation rentals makes it difficult to develop workforce housing within 16 miles of the town. His comment is, yet there is no policy statement that addresses that need. The town should adopt a policy to explicitly encourage the development of workforce housing in the town. Next is LU-27A. Explore incentives and remove regulatory barriers to encourage cottage court development along the oceanfront and beach road areas. His comment, the cottage court concept has been used in the past to circumvent the town zoning regulations for single-family homes. This policy statement should include language that reflects a limit of the overall size of structures in a cottage court. Next is signage. The text should note the town's prohibition of off-site commercial signage, and he references the court case of R.O. Gibbons versus Nags Head. Next, opposed to LU-23C.
23C?
Yep. And these will be delivered to the board and entered into the record as a...
Please do.
Yeah, I need a copy.
Establishment maximum limits on the number of parking spaces for each land use. The town should continue or reinstate the policy of requiring enough parking to meet the needs of a successful business. The idea that a business does not need parking because a particular current business is not successful will only cause problems down the road for the town. Next, the arts section under cultural resources does not mention the town's art collection in its local art section. This is an enormous oversight as the town houses the finest collection of local art on the Outer Banks. 3.8.4, a section on water operations and distribution. The amount of the town's water allocation is understated. His comment, additionally, the town's water impact fees should generate funds to pay for that expansion when needed, and the reserves in the water fund should be available to pay for the expansion. Next, water distribution plans do not address the replacement of aging water infrastructure. Parts of the town's distribution network water pipes are now over 50 years old, having been installed before the incorporation of the town. The town needs to evaluate the status and plan for the maintenance or replacement of its existing infrastructure as part of any water supply master plan. This may be covered in assessment of the reliability of the existing infrastructure. However, I think it would be more plainly stated as evaluate, repair, and replace existing infrastructure. Section 2.8, corridors character area. This section makes no mention of protecting the edge quality in the 158 corridor. The town and DOT have worked over the years to protect the visual quality of the corridor, particularly in the Wellbone section, the north end of Nags Head, in the area around Nags Head Cove, and through the village at Nags Head. Substantial grant funds have been spent to develop and maintain edge quality. This should be reflected in the document. Almost done. Section 2.9.2.3, significant natural areas character area. His comment is Nags Head Woods policy. Ask you to add a policy that would encourage the Nature Conservancy to restart their lapsed education and public outreach programs. In land use section, I applaud the restatement and definition of characteristics that form the basis for future land use and development decisions. Page 57 through 58 bullets. Next, endorse the cited policies on lighting and pursuing dark sky designation. And finally, on page 133, the Outer Banks Community Development Corporation is defunct. And I will make sure you get copies.
If you would, please.
Thank you.
Any other public comments?
Great remarks. Great stuff there.
Commissioner Ratzenberger, you had a comment you
Yeah,
wanted
well,
to make?
okay, in the line of the technical stuff, would staff please check table 332C on page 361? And that's the storm surge stuff. It just looks inconsistent unless those categories are meant to be additions to, it looks inconsistent. I'm not sure the numbers are in the right place, or if it's supposed to mean that if they're not cumulative, which they obviously aren't by looking at them, it just, something seems to be inconsistent about each as you move along the categories of storms. Just check your base data. They were based on a slosh tables, which are not in here, and something looks funny. I don't know if they're meant to be, if Cat 1, let's say, is 14,000 parcels, then Cat 3, and I'm reading this slow, is an additional 4,300. And Cat 4 to 5 is then an additional 8,200. I understand that, but it ought to say to you that that's what it means. But still, the numbers look funny. So that was. I did want to say, though, in the comment, that I've spent a lot of time here before this board as a citizen or whatnot, hyping the 2000 land use plan as a wonderful document for anybody that wants to understand what really is behind the town of Nags Head. This is not what you find on Facebook or anything else. This is the real deal here. And I bemoaned loudly the loss of the 2000 plan in 2010 to the KEMA issue. But I want to tell staff and the advisory committee and anybody else that worked on this, that this thing is the new 2000. It may be twice as long, and that's fine. There's a lot that's happened in 17 years, or 17 years. But, wow, it really reads well. I'm not going to tell you it was a pleasure to read all this in pieces or even in whole, but it reads very well. It's well laid out, it's well organized. It'll take some smushing, but thank you very much. Congratulations. I mean, it's an outstanding job here.
Are there any further comments from the public? If not, I'll declare the public hearing closed, and we can begin discussion.
Mayor, echoing somewhat on Commissioner Ratzenberg's comments, and then I'm going to have my own comments about CAMA. I would like to thank everybody that worked on this document. This document truly represents a lot of what I think Nags Head is. The 2000 plan represented, the 2010 plan was pretty much horrible. That's not a reflection on staff, but my comments will further go that if CAMA tries to make changes to the document that don't fit our philosophy, this, not only should staff react vehemently, the board should react vehemently and not allow that. I know that staff has been directed to not try to put their influence on local plans, and that's what I would expect us to fight for, that we keep our local influence and not an outside agency influence. There are guidelines that we have to meet, but that doesn't mean that we have to adopt changes that do not fit our philosophy. And so if we start seeing that type of request, that we answer them immediately and vigorously, that this is our local plan and we want to keep it that way. That's one of the things that I'd like to see, and I do think we ought to protect this plan because it really does reflect, to me, what Nags Head is in so many ways, and I'm very appreciative of the people that worked on it. It does reflect the view I've always had of Nags Head, and I think the 2000, it just shows me shades of 2000. It shows that our core values have not changed, no matter how long it's been from the, because if it was adopted in 2000, that meant it started work in the 90s. So over 2 decades, the core values of the town have not changed. We've had a lot of changes implemented, but that doesn't mean the core values have changed. So I look forward to getting former Mayor Muller's comments. He had some interesting comments to me before the meeting started about wastewater. And where's Gary? There you are. I lost you for a minute. I totally agree with you about where Whalebone starts. It starts at Gulfstream Street when you turn off of 12 and you come down by 7-Eleven, where it intersects, that's the beginning of South Nags Head. So hardly anybody would know where Governor Street is unless you look at a map. But everybody knows where Gulfstream Street is.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I would just like to reiterate what the others have said, and this truly is a community vision. It includes documents by previous citizens or current and former citizens that have come together to work on a variety of studies. Those have been incorporated into this document. So instead of having a multitude of documents on shelves, we now have, a concise, comprehensive document with all of that in it. And so I'd like to thank all the citizens who have participated on that level. There were a ton of stakeholder meetings, organizations that contributed also, and I think this really represents a true community vision, and I had the pleasure of serving as this board's liaison on this committee, and I don't think I've ever worked with a finer group of people who did their homework and were prepared for every meeting we had, and we had many for a couple of years. So I think it's paid off. Yeah, there are going to be some changes, there are going to be some tweaks here and there, but overall, this is truly a comprehensive document and a shared community vision, and staff has just been awesome throughout this process and patient in all of our discussions and dialogues and debates in getting to this point. So I can't thank them enough because this was a tremendous amount of work. So,
Thank you. Marvin?
Yes, I think this is a tremendous document, the comprehensive plan for the town. Just as an aside, I think for anybody that wants to know what this town is all about, they could look at two documents. This comprehensive plan tells you what the town is about, how the people think, what they hold as their values, et cetera. And the other document is, surprisingly enough, to me anyway, is the financial statement, which lays out how the town operates. If anyone wants to know about the town of Nags Head, if they look at those two documents, they've got a 90% picture of what goes on here. I would like to, as others have, express my appreciation for everybody that worked on this. It was a tremendous undertaking. I think the product that was delivered here is several levels above what most people would expect to come out of an effort like this. It is really quite exceptional. Spent a lot of time going through it. The thing that I felt was of the most value to the group that developed it was that there was a universal appreciation for the history and the character of Nags Head. And I attended several of the early advisory group meetings as an observer to see how this was developing and how it would affect ultimately going into the technical committee. And I was very pleased to see that sentiment about the character and history of Nags Head become solidified in the identification of the character areas. And I felt that that expanded upon the work that was done on a committee several years ago when we were looking at beach nourishment and the beach road and things like that, that identified the importance of making it apparent for the public the different districts in the town. And those district signs went up, and I think they're a great addition to the town. And of course, the district that I live in is South Nags Head, and that sign went up, and we're glad to see that go up right there on Gulf Stream as you head south into that part of town. And that established that northern boundary of South Nags Head. And for anybody in the public maybe that's not quite as familiar with the southern part of town, as you come across from Manteo toward the beach, 158 curves off to the left. If you go straight ahead, you're right on Gulf Stream and go to the beach. Everything to the left, which was marked by the iconic structures of what's now Wally's Garage, Jeanette's Pier, Cahoon's Market, everything to the left there, that was the northern part of Nags Head. Everything to the right became de facto South Nags Head. And I think that that history is there with us. It needs to stay with us. Be a relatively minor change to what's in this document, and I think we need to maintain and reestablish that as the northern boundary of South Nags Head.
Okay, thank you. I think we have here a great document, and I certainly appreciate all of those who have worked on it, because I know it's been many, many hours of work to produce a document like this, but this is how Nags Head is going to look in the future. This will be our guide. We will take under consideration the comments today, and there will be the final draft plan. It will be on under www.focusnagshead.com, and we will have this on our July agenda for adoption. Do we have any further comments?
Mayor, separate from the public hearing and the quality of the plan, there's nothing worse than to kill the enthusiasm to have the word "came a plan" show up. And I'm serious. And I want to echo what Renee said, because I've got notes all over my page the minute Holly showed that chart up there. Now, 2010 was ruined. The work we tried to do was ruined by a couple of things. Number one, they imposed the ugliest format we've ever seen. We have a beautiful document here that leads, I mean, you can get it, I'll go on chapter 1, chapter 2. It all builds up and moves to the plans and stuff in the back. It's well written. It doesn't have spurious information and tables and stuff thrown into it, which is what, and you couldn't even read the 2010 plan. So Renee mentioned it. I urge us simply, this is our plan, and if KEMA wants to put in something that doesn't improve the plan, we stuff it in an appendix somewhere and tell them to live with it, or a separate book. Number two, the thing that killed the 2010 plan was their chart of required timelines. They completely blew that out of the water. And in fact, one of our major comments, as you remember, when it came time for comments on the process going forward, was that if KEMA did not meet their own deadlines, it was de facto approved at our level so we could move on. I don't know if that actually became what they put in their final document, but I would insist on it. If they're due 30 days or 45, whatever's up there, on day 46, it's approved. And let them figure out how to deal with the aftermath, not us, because we lost our plan for about 18 months. And be sitting on a desk up in KEMA. And this is too good an effort. And it's time, this is one of those take a stand sort of things, because this is our plan and our town.
Well, this is that good that we can.
It
do
is.
that.
It is.
2010, we were time to write a new plan before the last one was approved.
Very frustrating getting
Yeah.
it back. That's why I made my comments that I do not expect that to occur this time.
I certainly hope not, but I'm prepared to go be argumentative about it. But
It's a different day.
Next item is, any board members have an item that they would like to bring up today under the board agenda? Yes, ma'am.
Two. One is the manager forwarded me via phone call an email about a bill, House 56, that started out as a local bill for Topsail or North Topsail, one or the others, that has been expanded statewide. I think that would cause us a great deal of concern with relocation. And I would ask that the board authorize the mayor to write a letter opposing that bill, because it would preclude our sand moving that we've had as a result of beach nourishment. And it's just amazing how that bill evolved, and I would like the board to take action.
Applied statewide on something we don't want to do.
Would you like, I make a motion that we authorize the mayor to write a letter opposing that bill in its current form.
Yeah,
A second.
I believe that also, is it 56 that also has we had a separate conversation, I thought it was 50, part of 56 or an iteration of it, that could have potentially have some difficulty with beach nourishment. The dunes, not touching the dunes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's all
It's
part
also
of
at
that.
56, and there's a
It's in the-
potential that you can't,
It was in.
you can't have state money if you don't have policies and regulations
Right.
covering protection of state, anything with state money in it. So we need to get that covered also.
That's why I
Yeah,
asked that the mayor write a letter opposing its current form on behalf of the board.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor and been seconded. All in favor of writing a letter opposing House Bill 56, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Your second item?
Now that the DOT or their contractor has finally striped the roads, they've made changes in how they striped it down in the whalebone area. There's plenty of room, if we could get permission from DOT to put the little small pedestrian crossing. There's room of it because it doesn't interfere in a lane of traffic, but the crosswalk as you're coming out of South Nags Head is so dangerous because people don't even use the stop sign. It's a rolling and you've got people that coming across from Whalebone Park. So I know that Ocean Isle Beach has been working with DOT to do their own installation of some of those signs. If we could get that same agreement and install them where areas where there's room enough to put those in the middle of the road to do so for public safety.
Yes, ma'am.
Would the board,
Ocean Isle has them in the standard road with no separation.
well, yeah, they do, and so does Atlantic Beach.
Yeah, right.
But if we could get that permission so that we could go ahead and do some of those things for public safety
Okay.
and our local and visiting public. There's a lot of children that cross those streets.
That intersection in particular that you're talking about. is
And there's
very
other
busy.
areas, I agree, Gallery Road and different places, but
Right.
Admiral Street. But if we could install some of those, it would be a great public
I think
help.
we've got to get permission to do that because we have a lot of people that just completely disignore
They do, and the big signs, I'll give you the best example I know of is at Gray Eagle. The sign telling you the crosswalks there is right at a light pole, and it really doesn't,
blends in.
it blends in, it doesn't behoove us to, so thank you for the indulgence to bringing that forward.
Okay. Any other commissioner items today,
Yeah.
commissioner agendas? Yes, sir.
Very similar. At the intersection of Sea Chase and 12, the crossing from east to west that goes toward the beach club and into that sign, that place behind. Can we take a look at the shrubbery on this northwest corner of that particularly? Because folks coming around, driving south, that's on a curve in the road, they're driving south and they're not paying attention to anything that looks like a speed limit. And they come around that shrubbery and they're in the crosswalk. It's that close. And the people on the crosswalk are not gonna, I mean, it's tough, even wanting to stick a toe out because the next thing you see is a bumper. It's really dangerous. The same issue exists coming north on the west side of the road. That road also curves, and there is some shrubbery there. The distance is a bit longer, but depending on which way you're crossing, that corner is just plain scary because people they're not watching. The drivers aren't watching, and the pedestrians can't see them. So can we maybe look at, I know we trim shrubbery in South Nags Head, or we try and encourage you to do something here
Yes, sir.
to remove the thrill of crossing the street at that point.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. That was it.
Okay. Any other items? I don't have anything on the mayor's agenda. Any other business we need to take care of today? If not, we'll recess till 7 p.m. on June 21st. And that time we will be discussing budget and adoption of the budget. I'm not sure what other items right yet. We are recessed.